When he finished that show, they were just mesmerized with his talent. And they came backstage. And they stayed, and they talked and started telling stories. And by the morning time, they stayed there all night. They said, we want to invite you to perform in the Soviet Union. No other country artist has ever gone to the Soviet Union before. Mainly classical and jazz artists went on the cultural exchange program. We started, that was in 1974. We ended up arriving in Moscow in January of 1976, a year and a half later. It took that long to make all the plans. Then every time you make a plan, there would be something happen diplomatically that would just throw everything out the window, and you'd have to start all over again and rebuild the connections. We got there in Moscow. It was about 12 o'clock at night, midnight. We'd flown for 2 days to get there. It was 25 degrees below zero. Yes. We get off the plane, and between the plane and the airport itself, which you walked outside, it was snowing and blowing, both sides of the walkway were lined with Russian soldiers with their fingers on the Kalashnikov machine guns that ushered us in. Our whole troop, we had the Oak Ridge Boys with us. We had all the musicians and the singers, and Roy and I were the last ones to get off the plane, and he looks over to me and he said, Halsey, what have you gotten us into? Of course, it turned, Roy Clark and the Oak Ridge Boys turned things around politically for Americans. People loved Roy, they loved the Oak Ridge Boys. By the time we left, 21 days later, and we had all types of comments from our own political leaders just saying that we did more good to help the relationship between the Soviets and America than anything else, any other type of exchange that had ever happened.
So while we're on that, let's talk a little bit about the Oak Ridge Boys, because I got to tell you, there are very few groups out there that's had the lifespan of the Oak Ridge Boys. And as I mentioned to you earlier, they're like the Energizer singers, Energizer Bunny singers. They just keep going and going. And people love them. People just love them.
Well, that's because they love what they do. They love to perform. They love to change people's lives, and they can see every night that they're on stage that they're bringing that group of audience into a place of peace and harmony that maybe they haven't been, or just a good time enjoying it. And they're all great. They're possibly one of the great influences on my life, because I've worked so closely with them for 35 years now. I've been the manager for 35 years, and we continually reinvent the process of what we do and how we do it.
We have a number of things I want to show the folks at home that you were kind enough to bring with you, and I'm not quite sure how to make this easy for the camera guys and gals, but what I'd like to start with are the two guitars that we have on the front of the set, and as they come up on the screen, if you could tell us a little bit about them, and I think we'll be seeing them here shortly.
Well, the guitars are part of our company's collection, the archival collection that will open on April the 7th at the Oklahoma History Museum in Oklahoma City, part of 60 years of memorabilia and Oklahoma artists. The pink one, of course, is Wanda Jackson's, and she signed that to me, and I'm very proud of that. And Wanda will be there co-hosting that opening night with Roy Clark and with the Oak Ridge Boys that are going to fly in just for that event. The other one is part of the collection that the archives that we've collected over the years. That happens to be signed by the Eagles, Don Henley and the group you know. So I will have a number of those guitars on display, along with about 50 or 60 or 70 gold and platinum albums from the various artists that we've represented over the years, posters, pictures. It'll be about 3,000 square feet of exhibition
I can't wait to see that. Now, which one of these did you say I could take home?
Whichever one you want. You probably would look better with the one that belonged to the Eagles than with Wanda's pink guitar.
I was just thinking that very thing. Now, we have some posters and pictures over here. Jim, if I could get our folks to take some shots of those, and maybe you could tell us a bit more about them.
Well, just a few of the things that we have that will be kind of representative of the display in Oklahoma City. In the center there is a double platinum album of the Oak Ridge Boys. That was the Elvira album, and actually that's gone over 3 million now. So
incredible.
The poster to the left there is the first country music show that ever was presented at the Montreux Jazz Festival. Another first for us. And directly below that is a poster that there are a number of these posters that we have. The one on the left is the Monte Carlo, the sporting club there, and that was on the occasion of Princess Stephanie's 19th birthday. And that was a show that we produced and put together that included Roy Clark, Don Williams, and the Oak Ridge Boys. Then what you're looking straight at, there's the Oak Ridge Boys at Radio City Music Hall with the Judds. And that we commissioned that caricature, Alan Hirschfeld. So he's the great caricaturist with the New York Times for all these years. And so the original of that, of course, is in the Oak Ridge Boys office in Nashville, Tennessee.
To the just to the right of that one, there is a black and white photo. It looks like of you and Roy Clark.
Right. We were celebrating our 25 years together as artist and manager. And Roy and I are still good friends. He'll be down there co-hosting the opening of this exhibition. And I managed and worked with Roy for 32 years. And then we still see each other. And he still works, too. I mean, he's out there doing it.
Let's see, and there's a gold record up there.
That was the first platinum album of the Oak Ridge Boys. That's Elvira. That's a single back when they were doing 45s. And
they'll have it up in just a second.
Okay.
Here.
And eventually I would have 3 of them now put together, that single. But there it is. That was really an important part of our history there. That was 1981. And that really kicked it off. We were doing pretty good then and doing a lot of Y'all Come Back Saloon and Sail Away. A lot of good
Which, by the
records.
way, that's one of my favorite songs.
Sail Away, okay.
No, the Y'all Come Back Saloon.
Y'all Come Back Saloon.
I can sing that at the top of my voice every now and then on the road.
Well, it was kind of interesting for us, too, because the Oak Ridge Boys and I discovered each other. I went to see them at a showcasing in 1974 at Columbia Records was doing. And they were the last one on the program, and I didn't know whether to leave or not, but I'd heard so much about them, I stayed to see them. They were fantastic. They were a straight gospel group at that time. They didn't do anything else but old-time Southern gospel. They were so fantastic and moved on that stage, and all good-looking guys. And I went backstage, and I said, you know, you guys have really got what it takes to be the biggest act in the business. I said, if you'd ever consider expanding your repertoire to include some country music and some pop music, I would love to handle you. And they thought it over. In about 3 weeks we met again, and I said, you know, you're only 3 weeks away from being the biggest star. 3 minutes away from being the biggest stars in the business. 3 minutes at that time was a record. So we decided to make the investment in each other, and here we are 35 years later. We're still not only out there doing 150, 160 days a year concerts. We're the best of friends. They're like family. You know, we've been around that long, and so it's...
With your permission, because we've got about 8 minutes, and what I'd like to do is squeeze in some names, and as I give you a name, have you give me a reaction toward that name, and just maybe 20 seconds or 30 seconds on the person.
Okay.
Reba McEntire.
Well, a genuine person. And I first met Reba when she's probably about 17. She came out and sang a song on the front of a Hank Thompson show in Tulsa. So, and she's one of the biggest stars in the world now.
Waylon Jennings.
Waylon is one of those unique talents that had magic. He was a real magical person. And his wife, Jessie Coulter, and their son, Shooter Jennings, wrote a song for the Oak Ridge Boys called The Boys Are Back. So, you know, it's all kind of a close-knit family.
And it becomes a kind of a talent-sharing enterprise.
It is, yeah.
Before it's all said and done.